So a little over 4 years ago, my best friend Tony Bonnici and I were having a conversation, and I talked about wanting to deepen my spiritual practice. And I knew Tony was a Zen master and came from a long tradition. And I knew about his dad being a teacher and his mom being a teacher, but I didn't expect the conversation to go the direction that it actually did. So Tony says, "Do you really want to deepen your spiritual connection? Do you really want to do this?" And I said, "Yes." He says, "Well, be careful what you ask for, because if you're in this, you have to be in it 100%. I said, "I'm totally in." Next thing I know, what comes in the mail is this gigantic, beautiful book called Boundless Intimacy, The Eye and Treasury of Core Self. And it was written by his father, Dr. Andrew Shugio Bonnici, who is a doctor of humanistic psychology, a transpersonal teacher of core self-embodiment, which I had no idea what that was. I do now. A practicing Zen Buddhist Roshi. You can find him at zendoctor.com, and we'll get there. But I picked up this book and I read this book one page at a time. It took me almost a year. I read it 2 times through. I'm close to tears because of the what it opened up to me, the truth that I felt. In fact, I sent a note to Dr. Bonnici saying that it felt like a cool stream, just running water of clarity and beauty. And I had never felt such truth in reading something. And it has informed my direction ever since. So guess who you get to talk to on the show today? Dr. Bonnici, thank you for being here.
It's my pleasure.
So,
Thank you, Mark.
so again, people hear about Zen Buddhism, people
Yeah.
hear about meditation, people hear about mindfulness, and I think that they hear about the wrong things.
Well, let me start out by saying that Zen, usually people's understanding of Zen usually involves like an image of discipline and intensity, sitting for long periods of time, etc. Uh, Zen is really about intimacy. It is Zen. I could translate anything into Zen, I would say Zen is boundless intimacy. And so living a life of boundless intimacy is what Zen is about. And it's a devotional life of boundless intimacy. So it comes from the heart to the practice of the core. And when people understand that there is an intelligence or a still intelligence at the center of their body that is that perceives the development of their ego self, their individuality, their personality, that they have a true nature that is in still quantum entanglement with the whole universe, or with all beings and things. This is something that we're heading into into our remarkable future as human beings. But we're totally not there yet. But we're starting to get glimmers of this. But as we evolve into the future, we will understand ourselves as this still flashing impermanent moment of infinite intelligence, of an infinite wisdom that's happening everywhere all at once. And that this doesn't have to distract us or diminish the quality, the integrity, the conscientiousness of taking care of business in our everyday life. It totally enhances it because it diminishes stress and overwhelm in the mind and the body. So in one sense, we see clearly, we see clearer, we function with more of a body of ease and joy throughout all the loving, caring, doing, being, and creating in our everyday life. So this is what Zen is about. Zen is about being intimate with yourself, with your true nature, with the innate stillness that is inborn. You cannot create stillness. It is not about stilling your mind. It is not about stilling your thoughts or your thinking. It's not about getting rid of your ego self functioning. It's or not appreciating or enjoying your individuality. It's about grounding it all into the stillness of your core self, which is your true nature as a human being.
Mm.
So that's kind of the intro on how we can experience ourselves at a depth, at like a quantum depth, and feel what what literally limitless interdependency or boundless intimacy feels like in our body, and how we naturally want to practice it in our everyday life by taking care of what we think of as inanimate objects, which are really which really exhibit a wholeness, like this striker. It has a wholeness in itself, made up of atoms and atomic structure, but there's a wholeness that pervades and a stillness that pervades this as much as that stillness pervades the core of my body. So I honor it. I respect it as an expression of the whole universe. That's how we live. Zen is about living in boundless intimacy, caring for all beings and things, like with the respect, like respecting the whole universe. It's like daily doing as a prayer of gratitude to the whole universe in everything we do and everything we create. And we try to blend with the wisdom of the universe by listening to our core rather than to our emergent desires and needs, and just the constant thinking of ego self-functioning to promote its existence.
Mhm.
So that's what.
If Dr. Bonnici were a page in a book, when I first started reading, I had to read this over and over again to actually tease out the truth. So my suggestion to you is, if you're driving in your car or you're sitting somewhere, take your brain, take your mind, and put it off onto the seat, off to the side. And I want you to open your heart and just listen to the words. You can even rewind and go back and listen again to the truth that your heart knows of what he's talking about. Because when you start to speak about being intimate with all beings, all people, all things, all animals, just being intimate and being present. For me, when I first heard that, I was totally overwhelmed, because I was just trying to pay the bills. I was just trying to, keep the lights on, keep running and gunning and all that. And I don't have time to be intimate with everything. What I've learned since is being intimate with everything slows everything down so that I can actually handle all those things, with peace and with grace and being in relationship. But when I first heard this kind of a concept, and it was just a concept to me, it was more overwhelming. Oh, great! Here's something else I have to do in order to be able to do it. So how do you talk to someone like me who's like, great, I don't really have time to go be intimate with everything?
Right. So the beauty of this is that it's something you already are. It's something that all human beings have access to and can apply. Like you've learned to apply it more and more and more and more. You begin to see the boundless applications of all the things that happen in everyday life and how you take care of them. With compassion and wisdom, rather than with stress and overwhelm and wanting it to come out at a particular way, and your expectations, etc. So the point is that when we think about, well, let's look at mindfulness, for example, as a skill. So people say, well, I've got to be mindful of everything now, like that. So when people think about mindfulness, they usually think about like focusing the mind or concentrating the mind on what you're doing. Okay, that's not mindfulness. Mindfulness has nothing to do with using your brain. Mindfulness is visceral. Mindfulness comes from your felt sensuality in your lower abdomen Because when you're in your lower abdomen, your hara in Japanese, hara, Hara, when you're in there, you feel your sensuality and your presence of being alive, and the intensity of being alive is kind of like an ongoing ecstatic experience, similar to when we were like 1 or 1.5 or 2 years old. So that is like being viscerally mindful or present or sensually ecstatic about being where you are, or if not even, if it's not ecstatic, at least being sensually uh, present with wonder and deep listening from your core, so that that can guide you. The key is that if a child, as toddlers and young children, before we understood our name, our languaging, and our ego self-development, etc., and our individuality separation, these are all important functions, by the way, that we use in our everyday life. But we also have the kind of the cellular memory, or the memory of our baby heart, about how we were at that time. It's just recovering that. Remember, watching a child, that's Zen, that's access, that's application. That's like, a child's not saying, well, I wonder how I can be intimate with everything. A child just grabs their little bear and says, oh, this is my, my buddy.
Mm.
He just said, this is my buddy. Or he picks up a striker. Oh yeah, I had this for a long time. This is my friend. Well, that's intimacy. We grow out of that intimacy. It's not that we grow away from it. And it's always there, present to us, if we choose to prioritize intimacy in our life. In other words, how do we prioritize intimacy, not with our head, not with our ego self-functioning, but how about prioritizing intimacy with our center point of gravity, by just being still for 3 to 5 minutes in the morning a day, and breathing into our hara, into our center point of gravity just below our navel, and feel that sensuality, which distracts us from this stuff passing by in our head, that sustains our ego self functioning as its existence. I cogito ergo sum, Descartes. I think, therefore I am. So the ego self's function is to think, so that it can feel its existence. So thoughts happen because the ego self wants to feel its existence. So once we understand that there's a depth of self, self is literally wholeness. It means wholeness. Ego self has a wholeness, but it's cerebrally generated. Core self has a wholeness, but it's the wholeness that you can't own. It's a wholeness that you feel in your whole body, that you felt as a toddler before you even thought, before you even knew you had a name.
It was
Or
so
even
helpful. It's so helpful to me to remember that this is reminding me who I really am. This is reminding me of the state that I was born in, rather than something I have to go learn and I have to go figure out. When
yes,
I finally got that, oh, I'm already this. I'm already love. I'm already connected. I'm already one with everything. That relaxed me so much, because what I meant was I just needed to let go of all of the visceral distractions that were going on around me, and then I could actually relax into this rather than work my way into it.
yes, and it becomes easier once you prioritize intimacy. It'd be like, if a married couple, we're both having jobs and they're doing stuff, and they're developing their life, and they have kids, etc. And you say, well, what about intimacy? It's like, what about intimacy? Do you prioritize intimacy? Well, prioritizing intimacy is like, the intimacy for a relationship is like fundamental. It's like, that's ground. So intimacy with yourself is also ground. I mean, in other words, that's the base of living a life that where intimacy is prioritized, is really sensing a human being who understands fulfillment, who understands completion, who understands what it means to be a true human being, an ever deepening human being in intimacy, through intimacy. Intimacy on top of intimacy, Dogen would say. But so the point is that if we prioritize intimacy, and if we want to get to know ourselves, we don't go into analyzing ourselves. We don't, which has to do more with personality and ego self-development. Once we take time to be intimate with ourselves in seated meditation, even for 3 to 5 minutes at the beginning, a day, in the morning, in the evening, then we can start feeling the sensuality, our attention into our skull begins to diminish. It begins to actually gradually sink because the sensuality draws us away from the headiness. The headiness is not, to live life through our head is not the most intimate experience of being alive. Being alive is like the intimacy that a toddler experiences. Now that's intimacy with life.
Mm.
That's mindfulness revealed. That's
Yes. Anybody who's listened to more than 3 episodes of this podcast constantly hears me teaching. Every third podcast or every second podcast, I teach people to breathe from their belly, and I show them how the monkey mind starts to slow, the rat wheel starts to slow. You get into your body, you breathe from all your physiology slows down, and now you know where I learned it. Anybody who's been listening, when I talk about this is where I learned it. This is where I practice it. And this is where now you're mainlining what I've been mainlining all this time. So I appreciate this.
thank you. Thank you.
Nothing is new, right? This is how many
Yeah.
thousands and thousands and infinite
Yeah.
years old. But
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because the quality, when I started out with this, I started out because after Diane and I got married, a week after we were married, I was in a motorcycle accident. And so I was in the hospital for about, 2.5 months on my back in traction. And I had like 6 or 7 operations. And I was able, they didn't think I was going to walk again, but
yeah, you're a nice Italian Catholic guy. Right?
Yeah.
You're an Italian Catholic boy riding a motorcycle
Yeah,
before all this.
exactly. A Catholic. That's right. So anyway, so when I went into the hospital, I started wondering about, what it means to be a human being, to be alive. Is there a God? Is there not a God? What the heck is happening? So that started me on this journey of trying to understand what it means to be a human being before anybody tells you what a human being is. And so in investigating all kinds of religious beliefs, religious views, religious practices, in the end, the only thing that made sense, that inspired me, was the Buddha seated underneath the Bodhi tree, and just himself seeking what it means to be truly a human being before your thinking mind. And so that's the journey I went on to experience that. And that journey validated the realizations in that journey, validated everything that I had read around the Bhagavad Gita, the self, the universal self, the what Zen talks about, and Buddhism talks about, what Christianity talks about at its essence, and the same thing for any of the other religions, whether you're
Actually,
Muslim
I've
or
learned since that actually Jewish mysticism, same thing.
same, exactly. And even Christian mysticism or Catholic mysticism, actually, that's what they use, is Zen meditation, in order to come in touch, intimately experience this quality of infinite wisdom that pervades the center point of our body, our whole body, and the universe as a whole.
So
So that
what
you
you're saying is when you're filling out an application and it says what is your religion, you don't have to change the box from whatever
no,
flavor you are to Zen
no,
Buddhist just because you're
exactly.
sitting on a cushion and meditating.
Exactly, exactly. So it's kind of like when people say, "Well, do you worship the Buddha?" Then that has nothing to do with worshiping the Buddha. It has nothing to. When we think about worship, it's more of an expression of living our everyday life in prayerful gratitude. Prayerful gratitude means that you respect and acknowledge that there's something big going on here. There's something big going on inside my body that's keeping my breath and heartbeat going. All the quanta and atomic structure and molecular structure and cellular structure is happening all at once, and I'm not doing this. And to think that I should be proud of my thinking or my intelligence or my ability to create technology without expressing gratitude for what makes that possible, that's a wrong turn.
Mm,
that's that that that's a blindsiding ourselves. If we could only be aware of that and still do what we do, we would be in a better place as a race, as a species that has multiple cultures, multiple beliefs, multiple individuals with varying ways of being, but at the same time, all true human beings.
mm, beautiful.
That's the hope of our future.
I see it. So so I'm listening to you now and
Yeah.
I want to get started. So I'm in my
Okay.
car and
Yeah.
I pull up to my office. What's the first thing I should do? Just give me something quick that I can do to
Okay.
actually put into action what I just learned from you.
The first thing you could do is think about think about intimacy, just the word intimacy, and then take a breath. And take a breath and feel it sink into through your chest, and feel your lower belly expand, and sense that place in your hara, just below your belly button. Feel the sensuality there. Feel yourself touching the button to turn off the car. Feel yourself, after a moment of breathing, feel yourself ready to open the door. Be intimate with that fact. Sense it through your hands. Be open to your senses right there. And so as you're doing things, remember that you're connecting with things. You're connecting with things, and they're assisting you. The handle is assisting you. The wheel is assisting you. Your seat is assisting you. And at the same time, uh, you know, remember to take the minute or 2 minutes to just breathe into your lower belly and feel yourself present there. Then if you feel yourself present there, if you feel your warmth, a tingling sensation, a grounding in your lower belly, then you realize that you're right on the mark of what intimacy means inside yourself. Intimacy with your true self, intimacy with your core self. That's your true nature. So the key is what Mark brought up, is this whole aspect of breath really pervades what Zen is in sitting and what Zen is in activity. It's being intimate with your breath and realizing you can always take a moment and step back and breathe and let yourself sink into your lower abdomen, because then you'll start feeling a little bit more ease in the feeling of little, a little ease in your heart that's fluctuating with conflicting feelings.
Can you repeat that because
Yeah.
you just stopped? So just go back to
Okay.
go back about 30 seconds and
Okay. So
see
the
if you remember
important
where.
part is when you get to where you're going, or you pull over, is just to stop and experience your body in the car, if you're in a car, or if you're on the bus, I don't know, wherever you are. Just feel yourself, feel your senses, shine your senses outward, connect intimately with your senses. When you connect intimately with your senses, you become intimate with what you're touching, with what you're seeing and what you're hearing, what you're smelling, and then begin to breathe into your lower abdomen. Begin to breathe, do a belly breath where your belly extends outward. Don't push it. Just gently breathe in and let it extend out naturally, and then relax and let it let yourself exhale naturally. Once you do this, you'll, over a period of like 30 seconds to a minute, you'll begin to sense the rhythm, the natural rhythm of your breathing and the feeling of your lower abdomen. When you're breathing like this, you say, well, it's really hard to sense what's happening in my lower abdomen. I don't feel it. Well, a good example of what it's like is if you hold your finger up and I say to you, just focus your attention, your whole body attention, not your mind, your whole body attention on that finger. As I'm talking to you, I can do this. So I'm focusing my whole body attention as my cerebral cortex is, picking out words and moving my tongue, doing all this. But I can still feel the tip of my finger. When I feel the tip of my finger, I feel a warmth. I'm feeling a tingling sensation. I'm feeling the air actually that's coming by. And so now that's the quality. It's like just sink it with the breath and feel, just focus your bodily awareness that's all pulled up into your skull, into your headiness, and let it just sink with the body awareness into your lower belly, into your lower abdomen. Then you will start feeling sensuality. Then you will start feeling the quality of groundedness, or the quality of pleasurefulness, of living from there, of knowing that you're alive. And that is the most important thing, other than all the distractions that are going on with you, that you need to appreciate and enjoy being alive, and then meet your challenges from that place, rather than from a place of a myopic, stressful, separated place, rather than an intimate place inside of yourself.
The most practical thing about what you just talked about, when practicing being able to bring myself down into my heart, to breathe into my belly, to start to sensually feel what the chair feels like, what the carpet feels like under my feet, is when I'm triggered by an email, by my boss, by my spouse, when I'm fearful, when I'm overwhelmed. That applies at the same time. Just practically, if I'm freaked out about something that just happened, I
Yeah.
can feel my feet in the carpet. I can feel my hands on the armrests. I can
Yes.
breathe into my horror and come back to reality, rather than whatever I'm scaring myself about, whatever I'm making up about the email that just came in, all of that stuff. So
Exactly.
it's so practical just to be resilient in your day.
Yes. And when you're doing that, and you know this, Mark, you begin to see your story. You begin to see your own drama. You realize that you can actually, oh, wait a minute, this is drama. This is a story. It's like a storyline that your personality is used to. So you think that's who you are. So everything that comes in, you respond with the drama in the head. But actually, once you get there, it's a whole different thing. Or once you actually meet that situation or call that person up from your place of ease and joy, it's like, okay, maybe it has a few difficult situations in it, but I'm meeting them with compassion and wisdom. And lucid compassion means that the lucid compassion is the compassion that is willing to say, no, this is not true to my integrity. I cannot cross this, the boundary, or whatever it is, or that's not a good idea. you know,
You
it's
still get to set boundaries. You still get to
yeah,
ask for what you want. You
exactly,
still get to go
exactly,
do business. You still get to do all these
yeah,
things. You just do it
exactly.
with a different quality.
Exactly. You do it in a healthier way towards yourself, towards the situation, towards the environment and with your, towards your loved ones, because how you are at the end of the day is how they're going to feel you. You know, so it's like that really is important, because it starts bringing balance to your to your work, to your play, to your relationships. They all begin to flow in a rhythm that works, you know, rather than fighting against each other. You know, work, relationships, play, self-care. You know, it's all has to be kind of like a balance, and we find that balance in our core.
Mm.
That our core guides us to that balance, and the visibility. That's why when I mentioned the visibility, that actually we can see our ego self functioning. We know when we're in our drama. We can have compassion for ourselves, forgive ourselves, and sink and start over again with compassion towards ourselves and the situation, but bring our whole being and all our intellect and all our heart into that grounded presence from our core, and then take care of business.
No,
I love taking care of business. Taking care of business is what Zen is about too. So,
no kidding. You know, Tony, having, you know, having Tony on the show talking about, you know, entrepreneurs and the way he gets entrepreneurs to perform at levels they never thought they could perform in business
that's
and in
true.
relationship and in sports, that from this place is absolutely breathtaking. All right, great. So I'm a master now of breathing into my belly. I'm a master of touching the car door, and I'm present and I'm good. Where do I go next?
So next, I would say, I would really encourage you to, if you understand this, if you begin to understand the feeling of this intimacy in the core and in your lower abdomen, then you want to take time to be intimate with yourself and with that place in your body. And the way to do that is to pull yourself out, or create a place where there aren't distractions, where you can sit in the morning by yourself, whether it's on a chair or a cushion, um, and uh, and then the whole form of sitting upright, you know, breathing through your nose. That's all in the book, Boundless Intimacy too, and on my website, by the way. Actually, if you go to zendoctor.com, as soon as you get on zendoctor.com, a little box will pop up, and it says put your email address there, and I'll send you a PDF file that has 2-page instructions on sitting and the breath and the posture and the form of the eyes, and then it has pictures, supportive training pictures for you, and then from that place, create your space of intimacy. Okay, so you're creating a place where the intimacy can thrive into boundless intimacy. And so once you create that space, begin with 5 minutes a day of honoring yourself in intimacy with your core self, with your true nature, not with your headiness and not with the confused feelings in your heart, but with your stillness. Because underneath that sensuality, that's another leap. Underneath your sensuality in your lower abdomen, in between your belly button and like an inch and a half uh, in the center of your lower abdomen, you will begin to experience a stillness that you are not creating. That stillness exists as an intelligence that pervades the whole universe. I know it sounds like dramatic, but it's the essence of stillness is here. I'm getting a little
No. So
quantum physics on.
if
Okay,
I'm the listener, I'd be like, all
yeah.
right, he's overselling this. He's overselling the sitting
I
on a
know.
cushion, and I'm going to
I'm
know the
loving this.
secrets of the universe, right? But
No.
I have to tell you,
Okay.
after following your instructions for quite a while,
Yeah.
you're not overselling it. In fact, you're underselling. Like, I have been close to tears this entire conversation because of the intimacy, the joy, the, yes, I ups and downs and ins and outs and fears and all the things. I'm human all the time. And
Me
the
too.
intimacy, and the for me, the contact with life, it has been exquisite. uh,
Exactly.
so that what you're talking about in that pinpoint in the center of your abdomen, is just the germination of a relationship with all of life. And it's
Yeah.
actually truer than our conversation. It's truer than the
Oh, yes.
stories we make up. It's
Yeah.
truer and more real once you touch it
Yeah.
than everything else. And it's actually there.
Yes. Yes. Well, and the key is that, remember, once you touch it, once you experience that stillness and the center point of gravity in your body, just below your belly button. Once you experience it, your thinking mind will, you'll get up from sitting and you say, "Wow, that." And as soon as you start saying, "Wow, that really felt great," your thinking mind is going to start saying, "Well, you don't know what you're feeling.
Yeah, that
Maybe
didn't
that did
happen.
really, that
That
didn't
didn't really
happen.
happen.
That
No.
was no, 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 no." But what happens is it'd be like, and I use this story all the time. Like if you're sitting down near a tree and you've never felt water, and all of a sudden there's a like a little stream coming up off the ground, and you put your hand back to balance yourself, and you feel this liquid, and you think, "Wow!" And you start feeling it, and so you have no words for it. So you're feeling it, and you say, "Oh, that was wonderful! That sensation I felt." And then but you come back again but you're thinking, "My no, blah, 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 that wasn't real. That's not it. There's nothing there. You're just making this up, or you're creating." But you go back to that place and sit down, and you put your hand there, and you feel it again. Well, pretty soon it becomes cellularly validated in your whole body. And once it's molecularly, cellularly, and uh, organically validated and confirmed in your body, what the thinking mind says about it, what your ego self thinks about it, is irrelevant, because you know what is the truth. So you want to live from this truth. And once you live from the truth, the ego self sees that, well, wait a minute, you're not out to get me. You're actually out to make me more relaxed, to make me less driven, to make me less so feeling overwhelmed. Well, maybe I can hang out with this, And then we begin to refine the edges of our ego self functioning, the edges of our personality dynamic, to bring out our personality in a healthier way, in a more exuberant way, in a more tender way. Uh, and our ego self functioning can take care of working with thinking mind, etc., and in ways, in creative ways, and ways to use language that we thought maybe were not even accessible to us, not even possible. So that we understand that language is a creative tool. It can work like painting. It can work like clay. It can bring intimacy in a relationship like we've never felt before, if we just trust the anchoring of our thinking in our core.
So you're writing a children's book.
Yes, it's written. It's at the publishers. I've been having some issues around the publisher. They've been having issues with their production team, etc. But it's done.
All right, we're
So
going to throw some hoponopono
okay.
on the publisher, because when is the book planned to come out?
Hopefully, I would hope it's going to be out within the next month or two.
And what's the name?
Peaceful Light.
Peaceful Light.
So that center point of gravity in your body, that stillness, is a peaceful light that you experience.
I'm so
And
excited
that,
for that book, because
oh,
Boundless Intimacy, I've given Boundless Intimacy to numerous people. Tony's given
yeah,
it to numerous people.
yeah,
And, very few of us will read the entire thing, practice through the entire thing, and really, just squeeze every exquisite piece of light out of the book and the practices. But a children's book, Oh my
Yeah,
God, what you
it's
must
kind
have had to do to actually distill it down
of
to, it's
yeah,
probably just as, it's funny because when Eckhart Tolle wrote The Power of Now,
yeah,
right, that's a nice big thick book. And then he wrote Practicing the Power of Now. And
yes,
Practicing the Power of Now is so much more powerful to me than The
okay,
Power of Now because he had to
yes,
distill it down. So
yes.
this, I'm so excited for this children's book.
Yeah, it is. It's good. It was really fun doing it. Every page has a picture, every picture, which is kind of fun. So you're visually enticed with it, and like I said, it's for. I said a peaceful light, body core wisdom for youthful hearts. Well, youthful hearts happen in adults and of all ages, and so that's actually it was a friend, a neighbor friend of ours who read Boundless Intimacy, who said I was at a social gathering. He said, you should really write a children's book so I can read that first again and then go back to Boundless.
I'm
I said,
so thrilled.
that's a brilliant idea. I think I'm going to do that.
So I put me down for a case
Oh,
of
yes.
books. As
Okay.
soon as it's published, I want a case of books because I'm going to give it out like water. It's funny because in Boundless Intimacy, you and in your talks, you constantly talk about beginner heart mind. This is
Yes.
kindergarten, right? If you
Yes.
ever think that you're graduating, if you ever think you're getting to first or second grade, you're losing
That's
it.
it.
If you are not in kindergarten, if you are not a beginner heart mind, if you are not sitting in the I don't know, in the koan of I just don't know, you're doing it wrong. So the more you're confused, but feeling it in the in your somatic body, then
Yeah.
you're more on track than if you're getting it. Like I love that. So a children's book is the perfect exclamation point.
Yes, that's going to be wonderful for perpetuating beginner's heart mind too. Exactly.
So all this is going to be on the website.
Yeah.
So I'll put links to all of this, and then when the book comes out, when the children's book come out, we'll put a link to that also, so that we can get that
Okay.
out into the world. Uh,
That'd be great. I appreciate it, Mark.
Dr. Bonnici, I just appreciate that you spend time with us. I appreciate all you put into the world. Uh, I
Thank
appreciate
you.
that you share your lovely wife Diana with me. Again, she's been on the show, and she's also saved my relationship. Brilliant woman, your son Tony and Eric, and your like
Thank
your
you.
whole family to me is everything. So I appreciate
Thank
you.
you. We can't wait to see you in person again.
So Dr. Bonnici and his whole entire family live in Hawaii, so there is incentive to go see him. So thank you for being on the show, and thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mark.
To everybody else,
Blessings.
this was a gift to you from my heart, and I just appreciate that you spent your precious time and attention. And if you just take one tiny ounce of the wisdom, I promise you it will grow and change your life. So thank you for staying with us. And to this point, have a great rest of the day.
Blessings, everybody.